My name is Jabu Mabuza. I'm the late Dr. Mabuza's firstborn son. My father's stories that come from my grandparents and people that were around him, all entertaining. He was smart, witty, always jolly, he had lots of friends. And the obvious, always got in trouble. Always. Dad was naughty. But the smarts in him got him out of trouble. So one of the things that we heard from him actually and my grandparents was him getting expelled from school when he was much younger. And that was because part of the mafia type of gang, but it was all just to protect the girls from getting hit on by guys from other schools. But nothing really serious, he was just naughty.
So the thing about Jabu was that in the first place, he was totally fearless. I mean, any deal could be done. He pursued things with a vigor and enthusiasm that was infectious in the company. Over the years, Jabu joined in the early 90s when what was then the Southern Sun Hotel Group was just coming out of what was a stage of bankruptcy, and the new casino dispensation was opening up. And the CEO at the time, Ron Stringfellow, went to breweries and said that the Southern Sun wanted to pursue this new casino business, and he needed two things. He needed 5 billion rand in funding, and he needed Jabu. And that's how Jabu came across to what was Southern Sun, and was part of the founding team to develop these new casinos and to bid for licenses and so on. And that legacy will stay, I think, for decades. It was just one of the most exciting times, and the pursuit of licenses and the growth of a brand new business that hadn't existed before then was very much part of what Jabu's legacy was in this group.
Yeah, it was an incredible journey. I mean, it was really an incredible journey. I would not do that journey again without him. Firstly, he gave myself as the group chief executive and my team absolute cover. He was very clear in his mandate. He may not have been a dyed-in-the-wool sort of ICT guy, but once he got what the plot was, he was absolutely relentless in challenging us as a team, but also making sure that we all reach our full potential. And what I mean by some of the, with regards to some of the examples around modernizing telecom, is that at the time, actually, nobody wanted to be associated with telecom, whether to work there or to be a partner of telecom. And he brought, I would probably say, almost singularly, the credibility that the company needed. And with his name and his aura and his shadow, it gave us the space, the time to be able to do a lot of things in order to change the company. He ensured that he put around him a very good and strong board. He had incredible relationships externally. So whoever it is that I wanted to have a chat with, he would be able to put me in front of those people. But also he supported me and my team, even in what would have been awkward conversations. You know, I would kind of ask him to join me when we go to Davos, because I wanted to meet with SAP and Microsoft and all of those guys, and I wanted to have a very difficult conversation with them. And Jabu, I think, knew very little about what SAP does for us or Microsoft does for us. But 5 minutes before the meeting, he'd ask me, so what do you really want? And I'd give him bang, 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 these are the things I really want from these chaps. And Jabu would walk into the meeting, actually not even walk into the meeting, he would waltz into the meeting. And then he would lay it out as if he knew everything about what SAP did for us, or he knew everything about what Microsoft did for us. And I think, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. So he was an incredibly helpful guy, and I think in a lot of ways, he really ensured that we become the company that we are now. And I think he would have been proud, actually, to see some of the things that he sees at the moment.
It's no secret that my father came from humble beginnings. And he's never wanted the narrative of being a guy who came from a taxi driver to being a business mogul to stand in the way of him having had a good education, because he didn't have that. He was not fortunate to have that. Financial struggles didn't allow him that. But he doesn't want that narrative, because he always says, can you imagine if I did have a good education, how much more I could have achieved? So education was one, and he made it a point that we all had a good education. Another stumbling block in his life was him and a couple of friends started a travel and tourism business that wasn't exactly successful, but part of the stumbling blocks in that were every month one of them was going to earn a salary. When he left that, he then went on obviously to being a taxi driver, and then that went straight to being at Sabta to Fabcos to SAB to Tsukusan, and the rest is history. Everything was a milestone that took him forward, but it was that first failure that got him going forward.
Well, firstly, he was a natural businessman, right? So he didn't get to where he got to because he knew people, because he came from a famous lineage, or because his father or his uncle was so and so. He got to where he got to because he was a good businessman, and he was a self-made guy. Nobody could own Jabu. Nobody could say, I made Jabu. Actually, Jabu was a self-made guy, pulled himself by the bootstraps, and actually made sure that everything that he's come to do and to know, I think he taught himself. Actually, he taught himself. He was fearless as well. Actually, he really was fearless. He's probably one of the most fearless people I've worked with. We've had to make very big calls in the firm, and Jabu never once blinked, right? Never once blinked. Once he got the plot, he could stand behind it. And last but not least, what made him really different as a leader is that he was also empathetic. He had this veneer, I suppose, of being very tough and fearless and brave, but actually, past all of that sort of stuff, actually there was a softie in there, and he could bring all of that stuff to bear.
So the key thing that Jabu and people like Ron Stringfellow and so on that I think are a little bit not recognized always is that they built something totally from scratch. In the early days of the new casino dispensation that came out, you had Sun International was the big gorilla in the room. They had been running the casinos in the homeland environment for years. They had all the data as to where the punters were coming from, what the potential market sizes were. And these guys, led by Ron and Jabu, really developed a brand new business from scratch that just took over the industry. And they were excellent in their site selection. They had a clear vision of what this business could be. And I think that legacy is to this day is something we've built off of. I mean, the hotel business has probably doubled in size over that period, which it wouldn't have been able to do if they hadn't had the success that they did in the casino side of the business. And people take for granted that you've got a fantastic industry like this that probably combined employs some 12,000 people, generates billions in taxes, is a very big part of people's lives. Casinos and the entertainment complexes that surround them are very localized facilities. There's not a lot of tourism that goes to a place like Monte Casino, but everybody that lives in a 25, 30 kilometer radius, it's become a part of their lives. And as it's now gotten to 20 years old, you've had generations that have grown up, and that's where they go to movies, that's where they go out to eat, that's the bird park that they know. And that's a legacy that will stand, I think, for many, many years to come. It's not often that you get to build something completely from scratch, and it's something that Jabu and his family can certainly be very proud of.